My conversation today on Behind the Act is with Mike Zara. He's a guitarist and a producer, and today we're talking about networking and building genuine relationships, and how embracing our weaknesses can help us enjoy the learning process, and the consequences of touring at the same time as being a reliable in-studio producer. I'm Seth Schaefer. This is Behind the Act with Mike Zara. What is currently inspiring you the most?
I think being home is pretty inspiring. Didn't get a lot of that this past year, 2023. So just being home finally, and there being like a new year right around the corner. You know, every time a new year comes, you get all these ideas in your head. Man, I want to do this, that in this year, and this is the year for X and Y and Z, and so that's cool. It's fun coming here because a lot of the work I do is in the pop world, you know. So coming back here, it's really easy to detach from all that, you know, as opposed to going to LA, you feel like you're still in the middle of it. So it's just cool to be like, you know, you come back from a run and you're surrounded by new energy and a different kind of world for what you're doing, which is cool. You know?
Do you think that the positivity that you feel in being home is attached to the fact that you know that you have work coming, like that you're going to be going back out?
Yeah, a bit.
As opposed to like you got done with that tour and you don't know what's next.
There is a little bit of that still.
Yeah.
There's so many things I want to do here, you know, and it's hard to visualize that when I'm not here that much, because being here is like part of the whole thing to get, you know, those things that you want to do off the ground. Like I would love to start doing sessions, playing guitar, and I would love to, you know, start playing more shows with local artists and stuff, you know. But it's tough to keep your name in people's minds when you're not ever here. So I'm excited about that, but there is a bit of uncertainty because I have a little tiny run end of January into February. It's like a 2-week thing. Then I come back and there's really nothing until like May. And when you do this full time, it can get kind of hairy, you know, like, you gotta really like get your hands dirty and get into it and try to make some money, and, you know, so that can be stressful, I feel like.
And it's hard to be a reliable guitar player for a local show down on Broadway or something.
Yeah.
You're also leaving for 2 months at a time.
Yeah, dude. And so there's, you know, that's a thing in my mind constantly. It's just like, you know, I'm here now. What can I do to make things work? And then, you know, you leave and you have to put your head into the other world that you're constantly in. And it's like A and B, world A, world B. And it's, you know, it can be tough going back and forth and keeping yourself focused on like what your goals are and all that.
If you had one of those versions of reality to pick, like it's either studio or playing in a local band or being on tour, which one are you most attracted to?
Man, I love touring. It's a lot of fun. The guys I tour with are just like some of my closest friends. You know, it's hard not to be when you're living on a bus and living in hotel rooms and flying all over the place together. It's so I love that part of it. But then again, you know, you miss your people here at home, and you miss just the solidity of it, you know, because when you're traveling around and you're in a new place every day, that is really cool. You know, that's a really great thing to be able to, you know, see new places and get new experiences and meet new people that, you know, you grew up never thinking you'd meet. And so that's really cool. But, you know, I think I'm getting to the point where I want to be doing studio stuff more, whether it be producing or doing sessions, making demos, you know, that sort of thing. Like I'm really attracted to making records at this point. And, you know, there's something to be said about going out and playing the records that these people are making and getting to be like the face of it in a way, which is awesome. And really fun to share a stage with your buddies. And, but there's also something about being the guy making the records, and, you know, that's really attractive to me now. And I think, you know, going back to what I said about wanting to be here to get these things done, a lot of like getting into those sessions as a guitar player, that's not easy in this town. And you got to be good, man. Like some of these guys I see who are doing this are like, whoa, scary good. When you're from a small town that doesn't have a music scene, you kind of grow up, at least I did, like, man, I'm the man, dude. Like, I'm the best around. And then you come here and you're just like, the dude at the gas station is like a better guitar player than you. And that's hilarious and so humbling. I've been here for 3 years, and not to say like, man, I'm the shit. Like, growing up, I kind of felt like I was, and I was confident. And, I tried to be humble as much as possible. But, when you're like the only person doing it and everyone is around you going, man, you're so good at this and it's cool. And then you move to somewhere like here and you're just like, oh man, I got to get back in there and start working again and start practicing, getting better. And so that's something I'm really getting back into the swing of, is just setting goals playing wise and just trying to hit them and learning songs, getting adjusted to the style of music down here. And so trying to get back into that,
Have you thought about hitting people up to be a teacher?
Man, I
talk about like a humbling moment where you're like, look, I know I'm good, but
dude, oh my God, I don't think I could do it.
For pride reasons or
no, definitely not for pride reasons, man. Absolutely not. It's like, my girlfriend who I live with, her name's Lindy LaChance, and she's a killer singer-songwriter, right?
Yeah.
And there have been moments, I'll go out and play rounds with her while I'm here, and because she's great at writing, great singer, like, God, so good. And she doesn't feel super confident with her guitar playing, so she'll ask me every now and then, "Can you come play this round with me?" And it'll be a lot of fun, so I do it, and it's always a great time. And so she asked me, like, "Can you show me how to make this better? Like, show me how to do, learn the neck and move shapes around the neck and stuff." And I'm like, yeah. And we sit down to do it, and I'm just like realizing in my head, like, man, I'm not good at teaching this stuff. I have like patience issues to where, it's hard for me to sit there and be like, okay, this is exactly what we need to do. This is what you need to practice, and just sit there until it's right. It takes so much time and so much effort and so much practice for the person trying to do it. Mm-hmm. And sometimes like putting concepts from your head into words that you've been doing for so long, and you kind of forget what it was like to like sit there and work hard and put effort into learning it after, like more than a decade of doing it.
Yeah.
It can be really hard putting that into words. And for me, at least, there are guys who are just amazing teachers, and God, I'm working on it, man. Cause it's a cool thing to be able to teach, totally. Like to educate people on like, man, this is how you do it.
Totally.
And some guys are just so good at that stuff.
Yep.
And I'm trying, man. I'm trying to get better at it.
I guess what I meant to ask was, have you thought about taking lessons? Like from the right people. Like,
God, I totally
and that's why
misunderstood that.
No, but it's interesting to hear the other side of it.
Yeah, dude, I need it. I need to get back into that. One of the things I've been really thinking about is been playing guitar for so long that I kind of want a new pursuit. I could play keys like a guitar player, like play really simple stuff. And something that I really got inspired by when I first moved down here was pedal steel. And, everybody says that. Every guitar player is like, man, I wish I could play the steel. And so that's something I want to get into. I know it's like a motherfucker of an instrument.
Really?
And, oh, dude, I was on tour with this artist named Noah Cyrus. And so that's Miley Cyrus's younger sister, and her pedal steel player, Dan Kalisher is his name, dude in LA, amazing steel player and amazing guitar player too. Just like all around great dude. I hit him up one day on Instagram or whatever, and I was like, hey man, like I really want to learn how to play the steel. Like, you got any information for me or just like anything you could tell me? And he was like, oh man, like it's a brutal instrument. Like once you get the hang of it, it's like the most satisfying thing ever because it never goes out of style. It always sounds good. It's like one of the prettiest sounding instruments. And he was just like, but it's going to take you like 10 years to get there. And so like, I'm looking forward to that because I've been playing guitar for 12, 13 years or something. And the journey from the beginning to now has been like the most fun part of it. So, to think that I could have that experience for another instrument, that's even more of a challenge, is cool to me. So, I want to pick one up, take some lessons, going back to that. And even on guitar, man, I could use some lessons too. Finding the time to get lessons is tough, but that's a attractive thing to me right now too. It's just like, I didn't grow up playing country music, right? But those are the sessions I want to be in. And I feel like my style on guitar lends itself to it, but it's not quite like this is undeniably country and, which might be a cool thing, to go into a session and not be the country guy and to bring something else to it.
Yeah.
Which is something I think about too. But to, be able to play that card too, would be great. And there are probably tons of guys around here who teach that stuff. And I could definitely use it. Scary. You go home and God, I was on Broadway, which is super rare for me to go down there a couple weeks ago. And, there's this group of people, I think it's called 615 House, and it's kind of like an artist showcase.
Okay.
And there'll be like a house band, and some artists will come up and do like 3 songs. And this girl, man, I can't remember her name. God, I really wish I could remember her name right now. She was a just killer singer. Does like 2 songs, playing guitar, soloing, shredding, just killing it. And then picks up a violin and they do Devil Went Down to Georgia. And this girl, you know that song, right? Oh my God, this girl was just like, whoa.
Nailed it.
And she was like, yeah, I'm 22. I'm from Texas or whatever. And I'm going to play a couple songs. I was like, sick. All right, cool. And I left the bar. I think it was Old Red, Blake Shelton's spot, maybe. Mm-hmm. I left the bar and I went home and I was like, God, dude, like some of these people make you want to quit. It's like,
right.
Oh my goodness. So then I woke up the next morning and I was like, man, some of these people are so good. I need to practice. I need to like get back into learning new stuff. And
yeah. So, okay, that brings up a question. What's your perspective of where your value comes from then? Is it competence or your presence? Not that that's like a binary reality, but
no, I think it's a little bit of both. I think, just saying yes to everything ever has been a really good thing.
There's a movie about that, right?
Probably. Saying yes to everything is something that'll get you in a good spot with this stuff. Yeah. I think, being able to hang is a good thing. Mm-hmm. That's probably the most important thing. Everyone says that, but it's so true. You can be the best ever and you'll get work, obviously. But if no one can stand to be around you, it's like, and that stuff takes practice too, man. Like being able to hang. I was a quiet kid in high school and I didn't go to college. Mm-hmm. So learning how to hang with these dudes who like did go to college, and that's always been like a thing in my head that I overthink. It's like, man, I didn't go to college. I don't know how to hang out with people, all this stuff. So I had to like practice that and put myself in situations where I was meeting new people and getting over like the head thing of just like, man, I hope they don't think I'm weird or like whatever. It's so when you're on the road with,
weird when you do it.
Oh man, yeah. So that's hilarious. But so it's that being able to hang with people, being able to talk about stuff that isn't music is a big thing. When you're on the road playing all the time, it's like you kind of never really want to talk about it. I, on the other hand, always want to talk about it.
Yeah.
But there are guys who are just like, hey, can we not talk about that right now? I just want to, talk about like Spider-Man or something. And it's like, all right, cool. So
let me do some research about Spider-Man.
Yeah, no, seriously, pull up your phone, look at that. It's funny. I've probably done that before too.
Yeah.
But I think going back to like the music thing though, it's my ear has been pretty good for a long time. And in the pop thing, the pop world and the country world are so different. And God, dude, I've been asked to do crazy things. Like I play with this artist named David. And he's a young kid, and all this stuff, as talented as he is, one of the most talented people I've ever met, man. He's 18 and he's just like unbelievably good at being a musician, and it's a writer, and God, man, it's just inspiring.
Awesome
to be around him. But I've been asked to do some crazy things because he's not a player, and he's real new to music in general, so he kind of doesn't understand certain things that might be like a little bit of a stretch to ask. But going back to like the say yes to everything thing, you get better, with these like management people and stuff who are always around. Like they see this kind of thing and they're like, oh man. So I remember we were doing these pre-show acoustic things for the fans, the biggest fans who got these like VIP passes, like a meet and greet sort of thing. We were playing a couple songs on acoustic before the show started. And so he would ask me tons of times like, hey man, I'm working on this song. You've never heard it before. And I know we go on in like 10 minutes to do this meet and greet thing, but can you learn it if I just send you the demo or whatever that I'm doing?
Sure.
And so I'm like, man, I don't know if that's a great idea, but I'll try and we'll see how it goes. And I remember this one time in Stockholm, Sweden, we were already in the middle of it, right? And we're playing these songs that we had planned, which would change like every day. And the fans were like, hey man, we want more, can you play us a couple more? So we were just doing 3 and that was kind of it. So he was like, yeah, of course. Like, let's play some more. And I was like, oh boy, this is great. Just sitting up there with an acoustic and all eyes are on us. And it's just hilarious. And he was like, I got this one that I'm working on. I don't think Mike here has ever heard it, but let's see if he can learn it. And so he like turned it into a party trick.
That's cool.
And so he takes the phone, puts it up to my ear, and I'm like, okay, thank God this is easy. Like, thank God there's not a million things happening in this. Right. It was like a 2-chord sort of thing. So I just found the key and like mustered my way through it.
Sure.
But, people take notice of that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And it's, you never want to be that guy who makes things difficult when you're a sideman, and
yeah, that's a pretty bad moment to walk out.
Yeah, man.
Another country.
Yeah.
A job.
And you want to be the guy who's able to pull through and get your hands dirty and do the thing, so
totally.
That was a funny moment for me, man. I remember a couple of like the management people who travel with us, and they're like, hey man, that was pretty cool. Like, no, we've never really seen people do it that way. And, he's really, sporadic, and it was really funny. So that's been a thing for me, is like the ear. That's always gotten me pretty in good situations,
Right.
And that's a really, really important thing in today's day and age, and the pop world and the country world are so different.
You said that a few times. What are the most notable differences that you notice?
So one of the biggest things is, in country, you get a chart, you can read this chart, you can figure out what you're playing pretty quickly if you know how to read those. And, in the pop world, they just kind of send you the track that you're learning, or if you're lucky, maybe you'll get the stem of the guitar isolated. Mm-hmm. But you kind of are just learning it by ear, everything. And some of the stuff is intricate, In country music, the guitar is just a guitar, and it's really easy to pick out what is going on. For the most part, that's a broad generalization. But
I'm not saying it's easy to play. It's perfectly.
Of course not. Of course not. No, I mean, in a lot of ways, the pop stuff is a lot easier to play, man. It's
right.
Like, luckily for me, and I say luckily because I find intricate parts obviously more fun to play. And the artist I play for, David, his stuff is like very guitar driven and really cool. Then again, like sometimes you'll come into these moments where like, it's the producer of the song is just some kid in LA on Ableton chopping up some sort of guitar thing. And you're like, I got to learn that. Like, how am I going to do? It's like, something that's humanly impossible to play. And you're like, oh, you got to figure it out, I guess.
Right.
And so that's different. Like the production of pop music and country music is so different. And so learning how to get around that and learning how to play those modern parts can be weird sometimes. And there's never a chart. So you just want to pray to God that this kid in LA who's making this song has the stem still. Or it's like a lot of times we run into this thing where like, oh man, well, I lost a session of that like years ago, and this is kind of what you have. So, all right, cool. And you just kind of figure it out, man. And it's weird, but
have you messed much with the Nashville number system as far as like the session work goes? Or?
Yeah. So when I decided like the session thing was a goal I wanted to, get around to trying to do, I have a couple people in town who I know who do a lot of session work. And it's like, man, you got to learn that number system thing.
Mm-hmm.
When I first moved to town, I was like, what is that?
Mm-hmm.
That number system? And, I'd heard bits and pieces of it before without realizing, like people be like, all right, it's a 1-4-5 flat 7 here, whatever. So that was one of the first things I did when I got to town is learn the number system and learn how to read those charts. So
weirdly, I grew up in Grand Junction, Colorado, the small-ish town in Western Colorado where there's not a music scene that's connected to the music industry necessarily.
Sure.
Some people, that would like flow through town or whatever that
got it.
Have it. But my teacher in high school for jazz piano stuff focused on the Nashville number system with me when I was in high school.
Nice.
I took that for granted for a long time until really a couple of years ago when I got here and I was like, oh yeah, that thing.
It stuck with you?
That's how my brain works around music.
Got it.
It's all numbers anyway. So
right.
It's a cheat code for me.
Absolutely.
To be able to use it that way.
Dude, 100%.
Like I don't, I translate the numbers back to the notes, not the other way around.
Right.
But
right. Yeah, no, it's a really useful tool, That's why these guys can show up to a session, maybe not even knowing anyone else in the room, and make a song in 3 hours.
Yeah.
It's because, you have all the stuff you need.
Yeah.
And, I don't know who came up with that number system, but it's pretty cool, man.
Yeah. It's like not basic modal theory, but
yeah,
it's based a lot on that, Anyway, that's fun. What are you afraid of? Like for your, whatever that means to you.
Man, I think I'm just afraid of getting older. I'm 26, but like the 26 to 30 thing is kind of intimidating to me.
Mm-hmm.
Life just seems to keep getting more expensive. And a lot of my stress and a lot of my fear just goes right back to money. Just like, so many people. I hate talking about this shit, but it's good to talk about it, So just trying to find ways to keep supplementing and keep learning and keep growing, being able to take on whatever project, and just keeping money coming in, man, because it's hard to go out on the road for 3-4 months and come back and you're like, all right, well, now I have this amount of money. I've got to make it last to whatever month and until I go back out again. When these artists get into album cycles, it's like, man, you could be off the road for a year and you really have to figure it out then. And so, I'm trying to get connected with people. I'm trying to get better at going out and networking and, just, meeting people who can use a guitar player, use a music director, use someone in the studio.
Yeah.
Feel like going out and meeting people is like the hardest thing for me. I'm so comfortable at home in my own space, and I just know that you can't make that work forever. So
it's hard. Like, how do you go find people that are going to necessarily bring value to that goal of like, connect side, but also the job side without being
weird, man. Without being like, hey, I know we just met, but if you ever need a guitar player, please call me because I have rent to pay in 2 weeks and I really need work. Like,
Yeah.
it could be a weird thing to navigate.
Right. But it's also like, it feels like maybe that's not weird here because it is like, it's just honest. And,
maybe.
you know,
I tend to be a little bit hesitant to put it off that way.
right.
Just out of respect for other people, man. I don't want to be that guy who's like, man, I need work. And then they go and look at what I'm doing. And it's like, how could you possibly need work? You're doing all this cool stuff. It's like, you really don't know though. I could really use the work and use, I just want to play, man. I just want to play. And that's the most important thing for me.
Yeah.
Getting a paycheck out of it is great and necessary and awesome, but just playing and developing relationships with people that you believe in and like artists and other guys who play and developing connections with these people is like really big thing. And like, that's where it stems from for me. It's just wanting to meet more people and just meet people who I believe in and make relationships and connections with these people. So, I mean, the money thing is usually an afterthought until it can't be, until you really are like in a place where you're like, damn, I might need to go drive for Uber or something. And I might need to go do whatever.
Yeah. What it seems like a lot of people do,
Yeah, man.
Or like people that are, producing a bunch of albums with their friends doing stuff. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, I need to go on tour, run and sound for this other band for
exactly
or whatever,
Exactly.
Like,
yeah.
It doesn't, but it doesn't invalidate the art at all.
No,
like,
of course not.
I think that's maybe something I've just perceived that people is like feels like a failure to some people, or like I'm not doing well. And it's
right. Yeah.
No, you're still doing the same quality of art that you were doing before. It's just that the money wasn't flowing with it at a specific time. And
right. Exactly.
Go do that other thing.
Exactly. And there should be no shame in doing whatever you need to do.
No.
Absolutely. Yeah. Like there should be no shame in that because when it comes down to it, your bills have no shame, man. And it's like, you got to pay them.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and there are ways to engage with this industry that you make consistent money and you're doing stuff that doesn't make you feel happy.
Yeah, dude. Absolutely. Absolutely. To that point, I do a lot of mixing work. I don't really enjoy mixing.
Yeah.
But I'll always say yes, because I do love making records, and that's a big part of making a record.
Right.
And I don't find it extremely creative. And I know dudes who do mix who find it extremely creative. And, so that's really cool. I think I'm more of a producer, guitar player sort of guy when it comes to things that I enjoy. But I'll mix, I'll master if you need it. And I have a bunch of buddies who send me stuff. And it's like, hey, man, can you throw a quick mix on this thing, this demo I'm sending to this publishing company? It's like, yeah, man, I gosh. It's a valuable skill to have, and that goes back to what I was saying about wanting to just keep learning new tools of the trade, to just diversify myself as a musician. Growing up, you just kind of think like, oh yeah, I'll just play guitar. Like I'm a musician now.
Right.
There are so many things you could do, man. Like you can make records, you can mix records, you can master, you could session work, have all that stuff.
You mentioned it before we were talking, because I was, I told you it's like I went down this deep dive of trying to understand what the freaking heck anything about the music industry is. Or
yeah.
And
it's a scary place.
But you mentioned that doesn't inspire me. I am inspired by the creating process. So,
absolutely.
And then you just said the mixing side. So I'm really just kind of curious.
Sure.
Like what part of the creative process, like putting it into words, makes you inspired?
I think the fact that you can turn something great into something amazing is a really inspiring thing to, when you put your producer boots on and you're like, how do I make this great song amazing? And that can be like a hurdle, a challenge to get over, because you're like, this is already great. How do you take it to that extra couple miles and get into this amazing product? I'm learning how to do that every day. I don't know if I'll ever really get there where it's like, oh, I know exactly what to do. Some guys do, but
So
yeah, I think that's the most inspiring thing.
is that taking like, okay, so you got a melody and you've got chords and you've
Right.
got a feel, maybe some words tied to it. Is that like adding the supporting parts to it that excites you the most, or the?
I think it's just, you get a chord progression, you get a melody, you get lyrics, and then it's kind of your job to figure out sonically what pulls out the emotion of that stuff and represents it in the best way possible. And that can be anything from a really nostalgic sounding guitar part, or the tones that you choose and the kind of reverbs you're using. So like going back to the mixing thing, that stuff can be really creative because you're working with this gear and this software, and that's all it is at the end of the day. It's just some knobs. But like that stuff really helps you pull out the emotion of a track, of a song. And it's like, I think that is the coolest thing about producing, because it's kind of both worlds, where you're making parts, but you're also like messing with the sonics of stuff too. And like one of my favorite things about producing is just like, I just have fun in this sandbox, and then I just send it to someone who has to deal with it.
If you clean
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's really funny to me. And like, and being the guy who has to clean it is like, oh man, mixing is the most fun thing when you get something that's just like ready to go, and you just have to get it sitting in a spot where it's ready to get really like that. That's really fun. But when you're starting out mixing records, you're like working with your buddies who are making songs in their bedroom,
total messes.
Oh my goodness. And you're like, you have to, what I always say is you have to, 90% of it is RX and cleaning and fixing. And that stuff is really not inspiring, fixing this noise out of this vocal part for an hour trying to figure that out. And then you get so burnt out on that process that you go in to mix the thing and you're just like, God, I got to come back to this in like a week. So I stopped thinking about the stuff I just did on this.
I'm an advocate for AI when it comes to that stuff. It's like,
Me too.
Clean up the garbage, please.
Me too.
I don't know of any like comprehensive plugin quite yet, but there's a couple of them that I use that are really good at removing background noise and reverb and those things. And
have you used this thing on the internet called like Lala AI or something?
I haven't heard of that one yet.
It's like this algorithm. They keep updating it, and you pay like a couple bucks for like, I think it's like $10 for like 3 hours worth of music. You can go in there, and they have all sorts of different algorithms. It's like a splitting software,
Oh, okay.
So you could put in a 2-track mix of something, and they'll spit out the vocal on one file and the track on the other.
Yeah.
And it's like really good.
Right. Yeah,
and so I was doing a mix for David, the artist I play for. We did a live mix. And we put out this video on YouTube that's a kind of a compilation of all the times we played it live, but it's like the one live version in the background playing. And so I had to mix that. And when you're dealing with live stuff, it was my first time mixing something that had been done in an arena on, off of like a Digico console. You're just kind of taking the stems and mixing it into something. So one of the things that I had to deal with was the bleed in the vocal mic was just like real hard to deal with. And I was just like, man, how do I do this the right way? Like, how do I multiband compress this and automate this and RX, whatever. And I was like, you know what? I'm done with this. I'm just going to throw it into this Lala AI thing, do the split vocal and track algorithm, and it spit out a totally clean version of this vocal.
Amazing.
It was so funny. And I'm just like, man, this stuff is just hilarious that you can do this.
Does.
And then, it made it like 10 times easier to mix and deal with. And you just kind of blend the ambient mics in and you get that same kind of thing back. And it's manageable. It's not like the cymbal is just like coming in and out. And oh my goodness, it was a mess, dude.
Right.
And so when you have a vocalist running around on stage and the drum set is literally like right here,
Yeah.
He's right here.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, man. It's like the cymbals are louder than the vocal, and it's brutal.
Totally. Yeah. How'd you get that up?
Yeah. Crazy.
One of the things about the podcast miking setup, we talked about, like, I'm not trying to bash on anybody that uses an SM7B, but not having that in the face is one of my goals, because this is how I like to record stuff.
Sure.
Usually when I'm doing the films that I'm doing, I'm setting up a mic like that.
Yeah.
The one person, and all I care about is your audio. But for a conversation like this, both mics have to be live. So the consequence of that is that you hear room tone, and you hear this kind of echo that happens. And Adobe Podcasts has been like this amazing tool that helps wipe out the background. Now, granted, it does do some weird things, like when we're both talking, it'll prioritize one voice and maybe the wrong one at times.
Yeah.
So I'm currently just kind of dealing with that and saying that's got to be what it is.
Right.
And then this other one, it's more real time and runs as a plugin called, it was Goyo, and it was like a free version. Now it's called Supertone Clear. And I bought it as a standalone plugin, but it's impressive too. So it's like a combination of all that stuff allows for this show or podcast or whatever to be not distractingly echoey on the audio source.
Sure.
Still feel like we're having a conversation when you watch the video, but when you're listening, hopefully listeners, it's not distracting,
Right. Absolutely.
But that AI tool like really does help me not have. I was just going to pay the consequence of like, we're going to have room tone.
Right.
Because I hate having the mic in the face,
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. It's like a trade-off, but then you get.
But now I don't have to.
Like, you get these tools that are just mind-blowing, man. It's geez, can't believe that exists.
Yeah.
It's, the AI stuff is crazy, man. Like, I'm getting more used to it every day, but I'm still kind of like on the fence about the entire like broad idea of it. Mm-hmm. It can be kind of scary in a way.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm just ignorant to it, but
I don't think it's ignorant to be scared of it, but I do think it would be, I'm not saying you're ignorant, but it would be futile to pretend like we have a say in whether or not it's coming.
Oh, dude, 100%.
So it's
that would be ignorant.
Yeah. To be like, no, I don't think I want it. Like, it's not.
It's you don't have a choice,
anymore.
Man.
Like,
you don't.
We had that a few years ago.
Yeah.
I think I'm excited for what it will enable us to do to continually engage in the things that make us more fulfilled as people. So, for example, with you as someone who loves to create, if AI can take that and clean it up and mix it, master it for you because you don't want to do that,
right?
Great. But if you love the mixing and mastering side of it, and AI can help you like do some creative stuff for a song that you're writing,
right?
Like you're not good at that, and AI can help you. Like if it's helping you as an artist get some stuff out that you otherwise wouldn't because you have hurdles, I think it's a great thing.
It's absolutely.
Or for example, the podcast. And hopefully, I don't talk about this too often, I'll get show notes and show summaries of every show from AI.
Sure.
That gives me a more objective view of what we talked about than what you and I will remember at the end of the conversation.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Right? And it'll say with some objectivity, these are the points of the conversation.
Right.
And so I can take that, and I really have a creative assistant that helps map what the intro parts of the videos are. That's freaking cool.
That's really
I don't have to ask somebody else to listen to it and type notes and summarize.
Right,
it.
right.
But if they're fulfilled by that, then that's great. But if not, like, or the multicam edit, like going back and forth between our faces. Like, I don't want anybody to have to sit there and go, camera one, camera two, camera one, camera two, camera. Oh, I missed that cut. Go back.
Right.
Two. Like,
yeah,
I've done that for so long.
Yeah.
Fine, never doing that again.
Right.
Have to.
Dude, and
AI does that already. Like,
it's pretty amazing.
It takes 30 seconds for this entire episode to get cut.
Oh, wow.
But then I'll go through it for content. Like, I will make sure that, the moments are there.
Right.
But
it's just another tool in the toolbox.
So great.
And to see it become so useful for all sorts of different stuff. It's pretty cool, man. Like, just the fact that we have people out here with cars that drive themselves, and, we're still obsessed with guitars from the 50s, and it's just so funny to me. Anyways, the AI stuff it's a cool tool, when it comes to music and video stuff, as you were saying, and podcast stuff, it's really great for that.
Yep.
there's probably a lot of bad stuff you can do with it in the broader sense, but I mean, hey man,
it's like any tool.
yeah,
There is a way that, I mean, there already, of course, like there's horrific ways that it is already being used and will continue to be used. And,
right. Yeah, man.
But that's more like, is that a human nature question, or is it, the will of the AI to do terrible things is just following directions, right?
Right. Yeah, man.
I mean, like the sentient side of it is inevitable.
Yeah.
Whatever you call that, there's not like a literal moment in which you transfer into full sentience. It's like it's a gradient,
right,
that you're going across. But
right, man.
But like it's going there if it's not already there.
Right.
Like,
yeah, exactly.
I heard a talk the other day. I'm not going to recap it quite as well as they said, but
sure,
they were talking about how creating a large language model with this specific intention of finding just the next word forced AI to have a better understanding or a better grasp of theory of mind. So like the way that somebody else that you're taught, like the way that you understand what the other person is thinking about the conversation,
sure,
the AI had to do a really good job of that just to be able to spit out the next word. So we asked it for something simple, like, tell us what the next word is. Just learn how to predict that. And it went all the way around and went, well, in order for me to do that, I have to grasp the philosophies and the understandings and the intentions and the beliefs and the, like, all these things about all these people, so that I can grasp what your next word's going to be.
Yeah, man.
And it did it. And it did it well. Right. So it's that kind of a thing where it's like, its intention is to follow the directions.
Right.
But the consequence is that it also, decoded like ancient scripts that we've never been able to decode. And like, whatever, predict medical concept. I mean, there's a lot.
Yes.
Exciting, and sure, the negative use cases are going to be equally as terrifying.
Just like with everything else too, man. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think it has the potential to do a lot more good than bad. But then again, man, I don't know enough about it to make generalizations like I'm doing, so it seems silly. But when it comes to our little bubble of music and podcasts and video stuff, which tend to go hand in hand a lot of the time, the more tools you can have for that stuff, the better. It's pretty hard to do something bad with some of this stuff. So that's cool.
What are you most excited about moving forward?
Oh man, just learning more about the stuff I'm doing right now and getting better at it. One of the things I'm getting deeper and deeper down the rabbit hole on is music direction. So I'm really excited to deep dive into that world again, and just get better at it and stay up to date with the stuff that's going on in that world. And just really trying to get into these circles of this session thing, man. That's like a huge one for me right now. Is I'm so excited about it. I'm scared a little bit, to see how long that journey will take, I guess. But then again, like the journey of getting to your goal is like what makes it all worth it. And makes whatever you're doing unique. So it's cool, man. I'm excited about those two things. I'm excited to just have this new year come around and feel like I'm having, to start fresh with a new mindset. And that you never really do, but it's like, it can be encouraging, I guess, to make some changes in your life. If you think that some things aren't going the way you want them to, you could convince yourself blindly, oh man, new year, like new me, man, like I'm going to do this, that, and the other. So that's cool. And oh man, I'm like recently getting into coffee a lot, which has never really been a thing for me.
Yeah.
But I'm pretty excited to keep getting better at that because I'm a big fan of espresso.
Okay.
I remember the first time I had espresso, I was in Milan, Italy, which is a great place to have espresso. And we were doing a fashion show performance for this brand called Valentino. And so we were doing this, it was like, a runway thing with these models walking around, and we were in the middle playing. Craziest thing I've ever done, probably. It was wild. But there was a coffee shop across the street, and I remember like I don't usually get very nervous when I have to play, but for some reason, like that whole thing was like, geez, like this is televised, this is live streamed, this is in front of people who don't really care about music as much as, the people you usually are playing to.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was weird, man. And I remember I didn't want to like drink before it, because obviously I can help you take the edge off or whatever. But I remember I went across the street to this little coffee shop, and I got like a double shot of espresso. And I remember it tasted so good, and I was like, man, this is awesome. And I got so like amped up to play the show. And it was like you never really play like a perfect show. But damn, that was like the closest to a perfect show for me. Like everything just kind of fell into place. Like didn't really hit any sour notes, felt good about what I was doing, felt good to be up there. It probably,
the elation of coffee.
I know, dude. It's so funny that like, I convinced myself that the coffee was the reason for this.
But, I mean, I'm not going to argue that. I love coffee.
Yeah, man. So I remember calling Lindy, my girlfriend, and I was like, God, espresso is something cool, isn't it? Like, wow, I feel amazing. I wake up at 8 o'clock in the morning and feel like I'm ready to take on anything. And she was like, yeah, coffee, that's what people use it for. And I was like, cool, like, this is great. So my birthday was in October. She got me an espresso machine, like a baby one to start out with. It's like a Revel barista, whatever. Mm-hmm. So I got real into it, man. I was like going around to different shops in town, getting beans and like comparing them. And I remember like one of the first days I was doing it, like I was just like making shot after shot after shot, just trying to like get my pull right and all that stuff. And God, I couldn't sleep for like 2 days. Oh God. So I'm real careful with that stuff now. Like I'll go down there, make one, see how it went, taste it, see how the pull was going. And then I'm just like, all right, cool. I'm going to write this down, see what I got to improve, and I'll come back tomorrow, because I'm not trying to be up until 5 a.m, shaking in bed. And like, oh my God, dude, I'm not. Yeah. So I'm excited about that, to segue like from a, God, I can't stop talking about music, to like something else that I'm excited for.
I can't stop talking about coffee.
I know, man. It's like,
that's good.
It feels good to have like a hobby again that isn't music.
Yeah.
Coffee is always a good conversation starter. So that's good. It goes back to what we were saying earlier, like before we started recording. It's like, God, I just can't stop talking about music all the time. And maybe I was having this conversation with Lindy last night. Oh, I think I was. I was telling her like some of the guys on my tour make fun of me all the time because I just can't shut up about the gear or like the show we just played or like the songs and learning the parts. And they're like, man, I just want to talk about Spider-Man or something. And I say that because one of my buddies, the dude who drums in the band with me, Devin, is obsessed with Spider-Man. And so that's where that comes from.
You're obsessed about music, and he's like, no, let's talk about Spider-Man.
Dude, this guy's like one of the best drummers you'll ever meet in your goddamn life. Like gospel type of thing.
Awesome.
Just amazing guy. Really one of my closest friends at this point. And yeah, man, we get on the bus, he fires up the PS5 and just plays Spider-Man. So that's
awesome.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah. I'm like on the computer working on tracks and stuff, and he's just like, nope, I'm playing Spider-Man. So that's cool.
That's amazing.
So it felt good to get into something that wasn't music related and just to, occupy my mind in a different space, because it's been a really long time since I've had something like that,
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's what I'm excited about.
What's your, just to wrap up, what words of encouragement would you give to other kids or other people or other adult, anybody, other humans,
sure,
or AI beings that are feeling afraid and want to engage and, I don't know, do what you've done. Like you're showing up at like pretty big freaking arenas and shows and like things. It's cool. It's fine.
Appreciate it, man. God, just I get being scared for sure. I'm still scared about a lot of stuff, and I'm not sure if that'll ever go away. There are plenty of guys who are out there who make it seem like they have it all figured out. And, everyone has their issues that they deal with, either mentally or like, whatever. Everyone's got their hurdles. I think just you got to get your hands dirty and get out there. And that's something that I'm, struggling with too sometimes. You get your first gig and it's like, great, now I can just do this and not have to worry about any of that other shit I want to do. And you get comfortable with that and you kind of forget what it's like to have to grind it out sometimes. And then you get off the road and you're like, oh, here we go again, right back to the beginning, having to grind it out. Anyways, I would just say, get your hands dirty, figure out any possible way you can play in front of people, whether it be an open jam at some dive bar downtown. One of your friends who's a songwriter asks you to go play around, do it. Learn how to use a DAW, learn how to use Ableton, diversify yourself. Like the more things you know how to do, the more hats you can wear, the better a shot you're going to have at doing what you really want to do one day. Like, God, I used to just run auto-tune rigs for people and then, oh, hey man, you can play guitar? Yeah. Oh man, all right, cool. I need a player. Why don't you give the auto-tune thing to someone else and come to rehearsal and play. And so, the more things you can do, the better a shot you're going to have at someone saying something like that to you one day. And it happens, man. It happens all the time. And just play and practice and just never forget why you started in the first place, because it was fun. And when you were a kid starting out, learning that Zeppelin song was fun as hell. And to get back to that feeling is kind of like the ultimate goal, and it becomes harder and harder to get back to that feeling the older you get and the more you do it.
Like any drug.
Yeah. You're chasing that first thing and you're like, oh my God, so just never forgetting why you started in the first place and just, trying to make it feel that way all the time. Obviously it's never going to, but
I love it.
It will at sometimes. And that's the best, man. That's the best feeling when it's like, man, this feels like how it felt when I was 12 playing with my first band in that garage. And, it gives me that same euphoric feeling. And so, just being scared of stuff is okay, as long as you work on it and put yourself into positions that you might be a little afraid of.
Yeah.
I think pressure really helps you get to where you want to go, and it helps you become better and more confident in what you're doing.
Yeah.
There are so many different situations where like someone's going to ask you something that you might feel a little uncertain about doing, but you're going to figure out a way to make it happen because you never want to be that guy that fumbles, So the pressure that comes from putting yourself into positions that you might be scared of doing is really what makes you a better player and person in general. Makes you grow as a human. And a musician too, but being a human is a little bit more important than being a musician, I think. So that's what I would say, man. Yeah.
I love it. Dude, thank you.
Absolutely.
Thanks for doing this, man.
Dude, thank you.
Yeah. If you enjoyed this episode, please consider sharing with other people you think might gain value from it.